Hey, I'm Nick DiMatteo, and welcome to Music is Not a Genre's PODFAST. No hand gestures today, no weird graphics or slapstick comedy or anything like that. We're going to go with exactly what the name says and go a little fast. This week's topic is PODFAST number 32, the wrap on 2025. It's quick takes from the Continuum number 6. I'm going to explain all of that in just a minute. But first, as always, thank you for watching and listening. Listeners, go to youtube.com/@musicisnotagenre. You get a video for every episode of this podcast. Watchers, go to nickdimatteo.com/musicisnotagenre if you would rather just listen. And everyone, go to patreon.com/musicisnotagenre to support this podcast, my band, Rec, and everything I do. Music-wise, speaking of, very special week for me, because this week, actually just last Friday, my new single came out, and it is not a Rec single. I'm reviving my old artist name, Nick. Creative, huh? And there's a reason for that. I'm doing a large project called Valley of the Unreleased, which will come out next year. And the first single from that, appropriately timed, is called My Xmas Wish. It came out on December 19th. It is my very first ever Christmas song. Please go to nickdimatteo.com/music and check it out. You get all the links there. You get everything you need music-wise. Just click on the discography and go down to the singles, and My Xmas Wish is right there. It's also the featured song today, wink, wink, but we'll get to that very soon. And yes, I have a song coaching service at nickdimatteo.com/thesongcoach. If your New Year's resolution is to write that song you've been sitting on for years, you've been afraid to do it because you don't know how to write songs, or you think it's going to turn out terrible, don't worry about any of that. Let me take care of that. I am the song coach, and at nickdimatteo.com/thesongcoach, you can book a free 30-minute call, and we can talk about everything, see if it's right for you. And as always, like, share, subscribe, rate, review. It really does mean a lot to all of us. And if there is one gift you can give indie creators, it's to do all of that. Like, share, subscribe, rate, and review. And I think that's it for today. I'm sure I'm forgetting something, but that's okay, because it is a PODFAST. And because we're going to get to the topic again, it is PODFAST number 32, the wrap on 2025. Quick takes from the Continuum number 6. Mushmouth today. So PODFAST, the 30-second PODFAST, yes. It is the wrap on 2025, meaning I'm kind of giving a little summary of how I feel 2025 has gone music-wise, and some recommendations and things like that. And Quick Takes from the Continuum is a small series that I've been doing for the last few years, where I give you quick takes on music. Instead of a full review, episode-long review, I give you some quick hits, some quick takes on some music that I would recommend. Most of the time, it's music that I would recommend, and that is the case here. About mid-year, I did a review of my annual playlist, the mid-year of 2025. And here at the end of 2025, it's the penultimate episode of the year. I'm going to do a wrap on the playlist. And of course, rap is also a pun for those of you watching. I'm wearing my one and only Christmas sweater. And that's because once I finish doing the rap on the playlist, I'm going to do an update on my Christmas playlist and some other things related to that, which we'll get to, of course. I'm going to include some favorites, mention what updates I've made to both playlists. Yeah, I deliberately chose the word rapping because Christmas rapping and all that. I think that this year, and other people have said this, people are leaning heavily into Christmas more so than usual in a very good way, like with the spirit of the holiday season inside of them, and they're trying to express that as fully as possible. And I think, honestly, it's in part to offset the year. It's been a pretty stressful year for everybody, whether you're talking about politics or big deaths or shootings, all the stuff that unfortunately we're used to. It's been a tough year economically, things like that. And we want a nice, wonderful end of the year holiday season. So I think that's why, and I think that's why you'll love the featured song, which we're going to get to again soon. So the show format, a summary of where we left off with my playlist back in July, including some general statements on my playlist. The playlist itself, I'm not going to go through everything, but the things that I have added since July. And that playlist is wrapped. It's done. I'm not adding any more. So what I talk about is what you get. Some conclusions, including favorite albums of the year, recommendations, an assessment of the year in music in general, a look ahead to next year's anticipated releases, and some things I've added to what I've already started, which is my 2026 playlist, an update on my Christmas playlist, the featured song, and questions. Sources, streaming services, whatever shows and films and stores and publications I discovered the songs from: Wikipedia, Google, newnoisemagazine.com, and Metacritic. Some disclaimers as before. My coverage of songs will be uneven. Some I'll just mention, others I'll dig into. And that's pretty much it as far as the disclaimers go. There's not much else to say there. I mean, other than this is my opinion, et cetera, et cetera. You know, it seems like something you shouldn't have to say. And I do speak with authority on many things, but I try as much as possible to express when I am stating an opinion. And I might qualify it. I might say, this is an opinion based in a lot of research, whatever, or it's just my opinion. There are so many people in the podcasting world, and especially in the music podcasting world, but everywhere, who express their opinion as though it is fact. And in fact, next week, I'm going to talk quite a bit about other music podcasts, and we're going to get into the pros and cons of those and how it compares to this one, etc. But again, I just try to say that this is opinion. This is opinion. And, you know, when I am expressing an opinion. So that's it for the intro. Let's get to summary. When we last talked about my 2025 playlist, which I called 2025 Alive, in hopes that that's how the year would feel. And in many ways it did. There were some wonderful things that happened this year, some things that hadn't happened in previous years in a good way. But it wasn't as uncomfortable as 2024, but it was disappointing. Let's say that. And we'll get to that later. I mentioned that there were 144 songs at the time and expected there to be about 250 songs by year's end, but no. The final count for the playlist 2025 is 204. And again, I say final because I'm officially done adding songs to the playlist. I like to look ahead, things that feel good, and put them in the following year's playlist, which I'm calling What's a 2026? Because at this point, every time I try to characterize a year, I don't quite get it right. So I'm just going to leave that as an open question. That final number, 204, suggests this was an above average year, but not a great year music-wise. Some years have had under 200 songs for my playlists, and others have gone, and this is the thing, as high as 400 or 500. There was no way I was going to get there this year. 2025 sits on the lower end of good as far as I'm concerned, music-wise. And I think it's because for whatever reason, the second half of the year did not blow me away as much as the first half. There are exceptions, and of course we'll get to those, but you know, we'll get to more of that in conclusions and when I talk about the playlist. So first, some general notes on how I find my songs. I've said this before, so if you know what I'm going to say, you can skip ahead maybe 30 to 60 seconds, but let's go for it. And many times I've mentioned this, I find my songs in these ways. Reading reviews. Yes, I read. Shazamming songs from TV and movies. The same for stores and other locations. I hear something in a store, I Shazam it. Random catches from listening to the radio. The real radio. Or allowing a streaming service to suggest songs, which oftentimes works, not always. Podcast research exposes me to a lot of that. Suggestions from other podcasts. Artist releases I specifically look forward to, and friend recommendations as well. So those are the ways I find music. I am picky. Even if I like a song, I might not put it on my playlist for two reasons. It has to fit the vibe, which in 2025 was mostly hopeful, pensively hopeful, defiantly hopeful. If the song didn't fit that, except for, you know, some outliers, I didn't put it on. And it's a very DJ mindset. And I used to be a DJ, as I've said a million freaking times. It has to be a song that I want to hear over and over, which means the song as a whole needs to measure up to my listenability standards, or at least something that, again, that I just want to listen to over and over. Get that? Oh, I like this song, but I project ahead. If I'm going to hear it 10 times, will I still like it? And there have been a couple of cases. In fact, recently I did this even with my holiday playlist, where I heard a song and I was like, yeah, I'm done with that. and I took it off. And it just happens. But most of the time I get it right. They can and should be from any genre, and they only shift the mood or the vibe when I feel like an outlier song is too awesome to leave out. And it's very important to me that the playlists I make are not genre specific, unless I'm making a genre specific playlist. But as far as an annual playlist goes, no. Songs don't have to be from the year of the playlist. In fact, I always include a few old favorites that I already know, and especially old songs that I've heard for the first time. So it is a mix of brand new stuff from the last year or two, let's say, and then other things that either, oh, I remember that song, I love it, I need to hear it this year many times, I put it on, or I have discovered quite a few old songs this year because of research and things like that I'd never heard before, and I put them on. As I have said so often, a playlist is not a mix. As a former DJ, again, here's where I mention that, I'd never call any playlist a mix for two reasons. It doesn't actually mix the songs. And playlists are almost never carefully sequenced. They're just compilations of songs. And really, if you play them on shuffle like I do, the sequence doesn't matter anyway. If you were to ask me, give me a mix, I'm going to do a whole different thing, and I might make it one audio file so that the mix stays intact instead of allowing people to shuffle it. That's not the case for these. I like the slightly connected randomness of a shuffle play. It surprises you. It's kind of fun to guess what might come next, or how does that song connect to the one that came before. And that's my summary. So let's get to the playlist. Full disclosure, my music portal of choice, and you can, rake me over the coals for this, is Spotify. I have been a member for a really long time, over a decade. And there's a lot on there, and there may be a day where I transfer to a different streaming service. I hope that is the case at some point, and I'll end up having to transfer all of these playlists because these are things I cherish and want to keep a record of. Honestly, there are a few, if any, affordable alternatives that are much better, although I will say Apple has a better sound quality overall. And if I had been a consistent Apple Music user, that would be my platform of choice. That's 6 and 1/2 dozen the other. Spotify is one of the worst as far as revenue. So I'm kind of killing myself there. But, we're all kind of part of the modern world, and this is what I've chosen. I'll be curious to hear if the new Spotify lossless version, though, will make much of a difference in listening experience. I'll probably try it, and it probably won't make enough of a difference to me, but we'll see. So I included the link to my 2025 Alive playlist in the text. If you are not a Spotify user, I'm sorry. If I get enough requests, I will make a YouTube version of this playlist. But for now, that isn't happening. So you'll have to go to Spotify to hear what I'm talking about, or just look them up. And then a quick mention of the first 3/4 of the playlist that was covered back in July in that PODFAST. I will definitely not go through all of that again, so do not worry. So you can go back and look to quick takes from the Continuum number 5. That will be that assessment of the playlist up to mid-year. But I want to mention at least some notable music and favorites from that. There was a lot of music from other countries, more so than in previous years. Things like the Prison Collen Sin Ein Chusol from Adriano Celentano. I know I pronounced that wrong. Devuélveme a mi chica from Hombres G. And a Japanese version of John Denver's Country Road. And those are just examples of a lot of the non-English songs that I included on the playlist this year. Speaking of that, there were a few interesting covers, like the Japanese Country Road, Kesha's Holiday Road, The Delegators Know Where to Run, Culture Club's Starman, the Bowie song, Oak Ridge Boys doing Seven Nation Army, the Chiffons doing My Sweet Lord, which if you know the history of that song, it's kind of wonderful they did that. Alexis Taylor from Hot Chip doing McCartney's Coming Up, and Lynx, a band I was a member of for a while, doing a version of The Cure's Lullaby. Lots of EDM this year. I wanted it to be dancey, including old songs from artists like Debbie Deb, Basement Jaxx, new songs from old artists like Fatboy Slim, new song from Fatboy Slim and some others, and new songs from new or new-ish artists like Nigerian rapper Fino. Lots of hip-hop, old and new, including from artists like Doechii, Lil Sims, Kendrick, Billy Woods. McKinley Dixon, De La Soul, and third base. If you don't know third base or De La Soul, please look them up. Old songs from old artists like Bowie, U2, Bobby Bird, Roy Ayers, Steely Dan, Yoko Ono, Tears for Fears. Old songs from bands I never heard of, like Majesty Crush, the 90s. New releases from older artists, like the Wombats, Oh the Ocean, great album. Bartees Strange, Horror, great album. Bob Mould, Here We Go Crazy, as well as selections from new albums from the Spin Doctors, Pulp, Sparks, and Fishbone. New releases from new artists I first heard, like Cheap 52, Tremendous, Valerie June, love that song, Joy Joy, Soul Stereo, Fontaine's DC, Turnstile, everybody's talking about them this year, and Sleep Token. Lots of music from female-led rock and pop and R&B bands like the Lambrini Girls, Beach Bunny, the Ophelias, Mama, Mamalarkey, Wet Leg, Illuminati Hotties, Sleigh Bells, Waxahachie, Japanese Breakfast Baby Metal, FKA Twigs, SZA, Remy Wolf, and Pink Pantheress, among others. And of course, a bunch from me and collaborators like Silence of the Disabused, the J.D. Lion Seattle Industrial Mix, done by Rec and J.D. Lion. Eat Salvation, the LR remix by Leslie Baroness. Several from Rec's new album, all caps, Eat Salvation, Way Too Rough, Linear B Other Side, You Know You're Right, which more on that later, and Rhythm 77. So overall, another super eclectic year with a lot of strong music and quite a few discoveries, both old and new. And that's the summary of that first half. It's a little more than half. Let's get to the final 60 entries, and kind of a mini disclaimer here. I'm not going to mention all 60, so don't worry. It's not. This is a PODFAST. It's not going to be an hour even, this episode. I caught up with an old favorite Canadian band, Japan Droids, and added the song Chicago from their 2024 album. I added a very cool, almost indescribable song, Gold, from Derby. Doo-doo from Uele is infectious. Look up Doo-doo. Uele is Y-U-E-L-E. Y-E-U-L-E. So it's Yule, I guess, and it's Doo-doo. Look that up. You will love it. The aggressively killer Aperol Spritz from a band called Debasement. Everything about that is great. You got to hear it to love it. A Chuck Mangione collaboration to honor his death. And if you saw my last Death is Dumb, I went over all the big deaths in 2025 in music. We've had several big deaths and out of music as well, but you know, it's a music podcast. Kind of an old school throwback hip hop song, Gnaw Gnaw from Lone Moon and Shadient from 2018. Old school banjo country song I saw, and I think Resident Alien called Divide and Conquer by The Devil Makes Three. An old fave of mine, Rahsaan Roland Kirk, who's jazz flute guy who speaks through the instrument. I don't mean that metaphorically. You can hear him talking as he's playing in many cases. His cover of Ain't No Sunshine. Recommendation from bandmate Jed Becker, the prog band Gentle Giant, and their song The Face. Great song. Another Jed recommendation, sort of. I sent an article about a band called the Traineers who were big in Wildwood, near where I grew up, and a song called Poontang. Look it up. That's all I'm saying about that. They were big in the 50s. Chant number 1 from Spandau Ballet, because I did research because of the book Sweet Dreams, the story of the New Romantics. And as I've noted before, I'm mentioning these songs. I'm not playing them. This is a music commentary podcast. Next week, I will talk about the pros and cons of playing snippets on a music podcast. But I've told you before, I don't do it. And my main reason, really, there are a couple. One is I want you to look them up. Pause it and look up the song. I do that often, and I find it more enjoyable than listening to a weirdly compressed snippet or a snippet with weird volume or a snippet of the wrong part of the song that is included in most podcasts. Sometimes it's effective. Most of the time, I do not find it effective, and I find it slows down the pace of the podcast. Stop here. I'm going to say you need to listen to Blonde Shell. I added 4 of her songs from her new album, If You Asked for a Picture, and could easily have added more. Blonde Shell, I love that new album. I love the artist. Again, a not so old favorite, but someone I've been listening to since 2017, Wolf Alice, British band, incredible new album, The Clearing. They go in different directions, but still retain a lot of their own essence. I added 6 songs from The Clearing. Two from Bung Jar. One, a collaboration with Little Sims, which is how I discovered him. Two from Sharp Pins. It's a really young dude ish slash band from Chicago doing power pop, chamber pop kind of stuff. I feel like with many artists, their sound is great and where they're going is great. Their music is not quite there yet in terms of composition and melody and things like that. This dude is pretty darn close already, so I added two of the songs, but I think he's got even more wonderful things in store. Six from the Pointer Sisters, because the research I did for that episode, including several I had never heard before, which I love that. Six also from Kool and the Gang, also from researching their episodes. And again, some things I had never heard before. A few from the new album, The Hives Forever, Forever the Hives. I don't think it's their strongest album, but they always put out strong albums. And again, I added a few from there. The song Bang Bang by Jace and Chris Benstead from the fun, if underwhelming, Fountain of Youth. I liked Fountain of Youth. I thought it was kitschy fun. And that's where that song came from. Jim Legacy, who's a lot of people are talking about, '06 Wayne Rooney. Very cool British artist, mixing hip hop and pop and rock. And '06 Wayne Rooney is a great song. The Avant-Garde from the new David Byrne album, Who is the Sky? Decent album. I've never been a giant David Byrne solo fan, but I absolutely respect and admire him, and the directions he goes in are always interesting. And I think that the Avant-Garde is a fun song. Angel of My Dreams from the new Jade album, That's Showbiz Baby. Two more from the extended version of the Wombats' Oh the Ocean, Holy Sugar, which is a great song, and X-Rated. Another from Barty Strange, who made up for us waiting so long for a new release by releasing both an album and an EP, both of which are great. If you don't know Barty Strange, look him up. Cannibal from the band Tally Hall. It's a 2011 song, which I think I heard in the car with bandmate Adam. Thanks, Adam. I actually have discovered a few things from Adam. The new awesomely funky and atmospheric hip-hop tune, Hard Ticket History, from Shrapnel and Obliv. Great mix of old and new, which I love, and it's something that I talked about in last week's Nostalgia episode. Stranger from the new Doja Cat album, Vi, or V, V-I-E. I don't know if she pronounces it the French meaning life or Vi to try. Maybe she meant the kind of double meaning. Discovery from a music podcast I love, hate, and will not mention, but will mention in my bonus MxG episode next week when I do that episode on music podcasts. The Animals, who did House of the Rising Sun, had kind of an outlier 1980s hit called The Night. Look that up. From that same podcast, Sophisticated Boom Boom by the Goodies and the Ad-Libs. What a fun song. I don't know why more people don't know it. I love it enough that I might even do a cover of it at some point. From that same podcast, the song Lies by the Knickerbockers, who were a New Jersey band who were meant to be a Beatles knockoff, and they did a pretty decent job. Look up Lies by the Knickerbockers. From the same podcast, My World Fell Down by Sagittarius. Never knew there was a band named after my zodiac sign. 60s studio band, actually, created in the studio, featuring Glenn Campbell. Does not sound like Glenn Campbell that I know. And it's a great song. It's a mix of the Mamas and the Papas and the Beach Boys, kind of psychedelic pop. Probably had many of the same musicians, like the Wrecking Crew, people like that. Witching Hour from Madeline Kenny from 2017. I don't remember where I heard it. I'm sure it might have been like TV. Very moody, very lovely. Deep End from the new Lemonheads album, Love Chant. Very disappointed in the album, but happy that the Lemonheads are still making music, and Deep End is a good song. From a sitcom that I watch, I discovered the song Customer Service by a band called Sugar Pit from their 2023 album. It's quirky, it's fun. Eden from Avalon Emerson this year, from a TV show, I believe. Dopamine from Robin's new album of the same name. And my new remix done by The Drop, which is also me, but that's my production name, The Drop. I did a remix of You Know You're Right from Kite to Camden. I called it You Know You're Right, No Fun Pushy Mix. And it's the final release likely to be associated with Kite to Camden, though I guess we'll see unless somebody else wants to do a remix or something like that. But those were the additions to my 2025 Alive playlist. Pretty eclectic. pretty strong overall, music-wise. Again, some things were disappointing. And let's get to conclusions and talk about some of all of that. Another eclectic year. It had enough interesting music to be kind of exciting, which I say is true for every year, if you are listening. And more on that later. The biggest change for the year might be how many languages were represented, and how many different languages I don't remember, but here are some. English, Gaelic, Italian, Japanese, Korean, Spanish, the Shona language of Zimbabwe, the Ibibo language of Nigeria. I'm sure I'm missing a couple. I'm going to be doing more of that in 2026 as well. If I like the sound of a song, I'm going to put it on no matter what language it is. Again, it wasn't a top year for music as far as I'm concerned. I think it kind of petered out as the year went on, but it did have some great new stuff, which I will mention some. I've mentioned some of those, but I'm going to highlight some of the end of these conclusions. Favorite albums represented on the full list, 204, the playlist, including ones I mentioned last time and new picks. Again, this is not any kind of a definitive read on the year. I don't do the best music of the year or any of that crap because I don't believe in it. This is a survey of the best music that I have heard. I always recommend you go out and explore what I've heard, but also things that I did not mention. Just go way beyond it. GNX from Kendrick Lamar, Doechie's album, Wombat's album, Oh the Ocean, Bartees Strange's releases, Bob Mould's album, Lambrini Girls album, the Sleigh Bells album, Billy Wood's album, Little Sim's album, Rec's album, Kite to Camden, and the ones I would add would be Blonde Shell's album to a high degree, and Wolf Alice, which I believe should and will blow you away. And honorable mention Beach Bunny, because I also added a song from her new album to my 2026 playlist. And I already explained why I stopped 2025. I think the year is over for me music-wise, and anything new put on the 2026 playlist. And so far, what I've added is my You Know You're Right, No Fun Pushy mix. I added also to 2026 because it's kind of a song that straddles the end of the year. Beach Bunny's Good Girls Don't Get Used. Ill State's cover of the Muse song Madness, which I heard on a TV show, I believe. And the song Billie Eilish from Armani White. So off to a good start, I think. And speaking of 2026, what do we have to look forward to? So some newish artists. Charlie XCX supposedly going in a new direction. I'm often underwhelmed by pronouncements like this and end up hearing only slight changes from old directions, but we'll see. She's always an interesting artist. Lana Del Rey, Olivia Rodrigo, Evanescence, The Kid Laroi, A$AP Rocky, Meghan Trainor, and Nicki Minaj are all supposed to put out albums in 2026. Some legacy artists who are supposed to put out new albums. Madonna, that's a big one. Red Hot Chili Peppers, I'm glad they're still doing it. Megadeth, Buzzcocks, Rob Zombie, Gorillaz, Newfound Glory, Lucinda Williams, Silver Sun Pickups. I thought they were done. Cool to hear about from them. Mumford & Sons, yay for those fans. Squeeze, excited about. Joe Jackson, somewhat excited about. And Tori Amos, which my wife and I will definitely listen to. Some will they, won't they for 2026. Will these artists put out new albums? It's been rumored. U2, The Cure, SZA, Lady Gaga, Rush, Anthrax, Tool, Guns N' Roses, Queens of the Stone Age, and Beyonce. We shall see. The ones I'm looking forward to of what I've mentioned in no particular order will be Olivia Rodrigo, Madonna, Squeeze, Joe Jackson, Tori Amos, Queens of the Stone Age, Gorillaz, Beyonce, SZA. And ones I am super duper really looking forward to would be Silver Sun Pickups, Tool, Red Hot Chili Peppers, The Cure, and U2, if indeed they put out albums. That's it for that stuff. Let's get into why I'm wearing this outfit. My Christmas update, my holiday playlist. I'm not going to go deep into it because I devoted a whole episode to it a couple of seasons ago. I will put the link there so you can listen to it yourself, and hopefully that will satisfy you. But I'm going to mention the playlist here for these reasons. I put 3 up, but I meant 2. This is an episode about playlists, so it fits. And it's my holiday time episode, and I usually do a holiday themed thing around now, and this was the best I could do this year. I had to mention the Christmas playlist and the holiday playlist and The third reason, so there are three reasons, I'm releasing my first ever Christmas song, as I mentioned, which we'll get to shortly. So every year I add new songs to the playlist. I started it in 2018, really 2016, and then morphed it that year into a separate playlist. So it's been almost 10 years. As of this recording, there are 330 songs on my holiday playlist, and it will keep growing. But here's the thing. Last year, I added 28 songs starting December 1st and continuing to slightly beyond Christmas. This year so far, I have added 5. That's it. And only one of them is new. And they are I Want an Alien for Christmas by Fountains of Wayne from 1997. I plan to do a full episode on Fountains of Wayne next year. Frosty the Snowman, a version by Fiona Apple from 2003. I Believe in Father Christmas by U2 from 2008. Merry Something to You by Devo, 2009. And my Christmas song, my Xmas Wish from this year, just released. And it is, again, the featured song. We'll talk about it later. See, here's the thing. The new stuff I'm hearing this year all seems to be trying to mimic or capture or recreate Mariah Carey's amazing song, All I Want for Christmas Is You. That mid-tempo slight shuffle beat. Some of it is totally fine, middle of the road fine, doesn't jump out at me. Some of it is super insipid and is reaching. It's reaching for that magic and that feeling and not capturing it because the song itself is not good. And all of what I'm hearing so far this year is unmemorable. And I'm telling you, and you know me well enough to know, I'm not the kind of person who says there's no such thing as good new music, always looking for it. I added quite a few new Christmas and holiday songs last year. It's not happened so far this year. I'm hoping it will. In fact, I read a most anticipated Christmas albums of 2025 list, and I'm going to mention none of them because nothing stands out except for one. The Jonas Brothers from their movie. Haven't seen the movie. I respect the Jonas Brothers. The album is fine. Again, it's all kind of shuffle beat stuff that does not stick in your head. I always leave room for new discoveries. I've often added new Christmas songs. I look forward to it. This year, again, it's that trying too hard, and I appreciate it, but it's widely missing the mark feel that the whole year has had, really. Love the year. A lot of great things. Happy for it to be done. I've surveyed some playlists, read some articles, had my ears off the stores and on the streets, tuned into TV series, Christmas episodes, even deliberately searched as I wrote this podcast so I could talk about my new additions. And so far, only those 5 songs stood out to me. I'm hoping that will change. And if you have recommendations, send them my way. And I'm doing my best to change it. How, do you ask? By the featured song. So the biggest thing about this featured song is that I have never, ever released a Christmas song. This is the only one I've ever written, in fact, finished. And that's because I revere the medium too much. I revere the genre of Christmas so much that I was a little intimidated by it. But I discovered this song while looking through old lyric and chord sheets of mine as part of my prep for the album I mentioned, the project I mentioned for next year, Valley of the Unreleased, which is me properly recording for the first time dozens of songs that never made it to an album, EP, or single release, and probably rewriting some that need rewriting. I was surprised how good the basic concept of this Christmas song was about how busy this time of year is for poor Santa. But if the guy singing were Santa, here's how he'd want to spend his Christmas. I liked the concept. It had the potential to be funny, endearing, but the original lyrics weren't quite there, so I rewrote about 75% of them. And as I rewrote them, it started the trend in like a kind of a intimate, smoky, what does this guy really want, but in a cheeky, fun way direction. And I leaned into that. And then I had to come up with actual chord changes and a melody and then record it in time for a new holiday release, which I did. It is jazzy, it is ambient, it's quirky electro, and it is brand new. Released on December 19th. It is called My Xmas Wish by Nick. Click the link or stick around. In the next minute or two, you're going to hear the song. And like I said, I think you're going to enjoy it. There are many, many, many references to other Christmas songs and traditions and things like that. See if you can name and spot and hear all of the different references in the song. It's a fun song. Questions. What's your take on the music from this year, from 2025? Any favorites? Were you underwhelmed? Did you love it? Was it your favorite year for music in recent years, or not quite? Any old music you discovered for the first time? What about holiday music? Can you recommend some? What are you listening to holiday-wise? And how do you feel 2026 will be for the year in music? I want to hear your answers to all of these questions because, as always, my objectives here are music, conversation, and connection. Thank you for hanging with me for the final PODFAST of the year and the penultimate episode of 2025. And have a great holiday, and I'll talk to you next week.
Santa has his helpers, his elves, reindeer, and sleigh. So all the toys for the girls and boys arrive by Christmas Day. Christmas time's a busy time for that guy and his crew. But if I was Santa Claus, here's what I would do. I'd pack my sack a day ahead. Get the elf off the shelf to sugar plum our bed. Then send him out to shout it to the crew that this year I'm spending Christmas Eve with you. I'd give my list to the head snowman. Tell him to check it one more time and he can make the plan. You're feeling naughty, nice, then I know I won't be blue. 'Cause this year I'm spending Christmas Eve with you. I'd ask for Rudolph with his nose so bright. He would grab the reins and drive my sleigh tonight. And I'd let Dasher fill him in on all the rest. And he can wear my red and white and stash all the cookies in his vest. Oh, Mrs. Claus, I hope you know you are the gift that makes my holiday love grow. The world won't miss me for one night. If they do, well, that's alright. I'll wink and tell them I'll be back around their way next year. 'Cause this year I want my wish for Christmas Day. Since we've no place to go, lovely weather for a ride together with you. I check in with Rudolph again around 8:55 and pump him up to make it to that billionth chimney dive. Give one more pep talk to Vixen, Cupid, and yeah, the whole night. It's clear that